Hi fellow YouTubers. This collection of videos is going to show you how I install these LED lights. You hear a lot of screeching while I'm doing this. For some reason my parrots have decided to chatter this morning, so you may hear a lot of talking in the background or screeching. Yeah, so as mentioned, this is going to be a collection of videos on how I install the LED strips, the tools I use, the parts I use, and the methods I use to install the lights. Again, this is just for guidance only. You will have, no doubt, your own methods of doing various parts of this. But if you need any specific help on any of this or any of my videos, please ask. You can send me a private message, or you can do it via this. So here goes. This part of this video will be on the parts I use and why I use them. Obviously, you'll need the lights. I showed you these in another video. They are fully controllable lights because they've got their own DCC decoder, and I'll show you more about that when I get to the installation part of these videos, and I'll explain what you do to access the DCC decoder and the things you can do with that DCC decoder. As mentioned again in a previous video, and I won't keep saying that, is they come in two varieties. The either yellow lights, strip lights, LEDs, or white. Now I've gone for the white because they look nice, and with altering CVs you can alter the brightness of those lights. Again, I'll show you that later on when I install it. These part number is 50708 for the white and 50709, I believe it is, for the yellow. Yeah, I mean, I think they're brilliant. But again, I'll show you at the end the cost per unit to install one of these. The instructions that come with it, they are comprehensive, but they're in German, the instructions you get with it. But as mentioned, I was going to say that again in the previous video, you can download the English version, which is on the internet. So that's the light I'll be using. Again, more information to follow on that. You'll obviously need the coach. I've got a rake of the Bachmann Mark 1 coaches and Mark 2 coaches with Network Southeast livery. It's because I wanted, I've got class 47 in this livery, and I wanted a rake of coaches to match it. So obviously you'll be using your own coach if you decide to install these, and I'm not saying you have to. Only if you want to install these. So that's the coach out the way. To go with the lights, I am going to install a memory backup capacitor. Now, ESU sells something called a power pack, and they work out about £3 each, which for what they are is a little bit on the expensive side, but a contact I have in Germany tell me that they are discontinuing those, so I look for alternatives. and I found these, which is 0.1 farad at 5.5 voltage. Now you'll see on the instructions that come with the strip light about using these. Now you can either use these or a standard capacitor. Now these, like the standard capacitor, are polarized, which means you've got a positive and negative. And they're used, these backup capacitors, just like a small battery. Where with your capacitor, it holds a charge for as long as it's receiving an input voltage from your coach or wherever, if you're controlling points with them. And as soon as you cut the power, the capacitor is drained. These, however, again, they're just like rechargeable batteries. If you think of, I don't know, CMOS battery in a computer, which is a round flat disk type battery, what that does is when you turn your computer off, the battery keeps the computer configuration, is that right? In memory. So when you switch your computer on again, it knows what hard drive you've got, what CD drive you've got, memory you've got, and blah 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 blah. So and that's what this does. When I fit them in onto the lights, it charges up, and I could turn those lights off with no power getting to the track, and I can switch it back on again, and they will come on, but obviously not for a very long time, because it's only 5.5 volts, and there's a limit to what this can hold. And it's much better than a capacitor if you're going over dirty tracks and so on, because it holds a charge, and it's charging the battery, the LED light strip, in addition to the pickups from the wheels. And again, I'll show you this at a later date, when I get to that part of the installation, what you do with them, and I'll show you them working on the lights. So that's the memory backup capacitor. To get, excuse me, the fire engine or something in the background now. To get power from the track to the lights, I'll be using pickups. Now there are two types of pickups. Well, I'm saying there's two, there's probably more. There are two types I've looked at. That's one. And they are the DCC Concepts. I think it's called DCC Concepts. Bear with me a second. Yeah, DCC Concepts. And there are alternatives out there because I've seen them. These are, the model number is DCF-WP12. And there are also, I've got to try and pick this up now. Stop it shooting off. There are these springs. Now I decided to go with those contacts. I'll show you why. I want to get to that part. They're extremely easy to install. These, however, get it in shot. They work really well. You know, they have got their place. But what you've got to do, if I put this down, before it springs off somewhere. Right again, sorry about that. I thought there was plenty of power in the battery, and clearly not, unless I've got a faulty battery. But anyway, getting back to the spring contacts, because on either side of the wheels there's insulating washers, or whatever you want to call them, which insulates the wheel from what's that, the axle to the other wheel. So if you put these on a track, it would short out. So they're insulated on both sides. Now what you've got to do is take out one of the insulated lugs. Again, apologies if that's the wrong terminology. Take the wheel off, take the lug out, find a way of creating contact between the axle and the one wheel on either side. You then have to scrape off, in a lot of cases, any paint or whatever on there, so to create a good contact. You slide the spring on. You then have to make contact in some way. I mean, some people have used Baco foil type stuff, aluminum in there. There's also electrical paint that you can draw a line along the axle up onto the wheel. That does make good contact. I have used that in the past, and it does work. Then you put the lug back in, then you put the wheel back on, blah 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 blah. Or you can buy them, and they're not readily available at the moment. They have been, and I bought quite a few of them. Peter Spurs used to sell them, where you had one side insulated and one side not. So all you do is take these wheels off and put the other wheels on. You'd have that side insulated, that side not, that side not, and that side insulated, so they were opposite each other. Insulated and non-insulated. And that's an easier, quick method of doing that. Because the springs are okay, you work really well. But it's an added expense to get power from the track to your lights. So these work out more cost effective to use. And I'll show you when I get to the section on installing them. You'll obviously need wire to get to the lights from your pickups. This has wire at one end, which is the correct length, and again I'll show you that later. But two more on this end using black wire, because I want pickups at both ends, and again I'll show you that later. So yeah, you'll need wire. These pickups I showed you come with self-tapping screws. You can either glue the pickups on, or you can use these screws, or you can use both. I wouldn't be happy gluing them on unless I was 100% convinced that the glue would be strong enough. So I use these, and you have to Dremel the end, and I'll show you why later. You'll also need a way of fixing the light to the roof. Now I'm using the black tack because it's very, very good, and I know the lights won't drop down. You can use whatever method you want. You don't have to use black tack. If you want to use double-sided tape along the full length of the LED, that's fine. I personally, that's my personal opinion, I'm using black tack. Tools I will use, and I use them quite often when I'm doing projects, is obviously solder, which I'm not going to show you that, but I use these in combination with this. Now I will never ever take a top off a locomotive or a coach using screwdrivers. Never, because I'm so clumsy. I would damage them. So I always use plastic tools. Now that's brilliant for opening up the bodies on the coaches, on the Mark 1s and the Mark 2s. You know, you've got to get over a lip. They're on quite strong, and I believe the top comes off if you don't want to take the whole body off. But in my case, because I want to take the bogie off, and I also want to add people to the coaches, I want to take a whole lot off. And then when I've used this to prise it away, I'll put one of these in, because these are more flexible, to stop it going back into the lug. And I use 4, because more often than not there's 4 lugs. And I put those in there, so I'll end up with one sticking out there, another one sticking on that side, and same at the back. And that's what I use these for. One of the many helping hands I use is this. For soldering or tinning wire, I found this very good. Sometimes I find the helping hand with the crocodile clips sometimes a bit strong, and it digs into the to the wire. So if I'm using if I'm soldering items such as this or tinning wire, I just clip it onto there, and it's brilliant, and I can move it around anywhere I want to. Okay, so that's the end of this video. The next video, I'll be showing what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a collection of videos on taking the top off this, what it's like when you take the top off, what you see when you take the top off, how I decide where I'm going to put this. Do I need to cut a wire off, sorry, an LED off, and so on and so on and so on. If they are too long, when I put them all together, I'll put up either one of each part of the process, or yeah, or just one long one if it's not too long or too boring, because hopefully this part will be the longest part, because it is, and you'll see, it is very, very easy to install. I find it easy. If you don't, please ask. Do not attempt any of this unless you're confident in soldering, or where to put the wires, what to do with the LEDs that come on this, anything. Please ask before you you go ahead and do yours. Okay, that's the end of this. Thanks very much.